Hey everyone, welcome to Wrestle Recap. My name is Michelle Tate.
My name is Justin Tate.
And you know what? We are the only brother-sister duo that takes you on the journey through wrestling throughout the decades.
Yes, we do. We have a great time doing it. Before we get to today's show, we got to talk about some current wrestling. What do you got, Michelle?
Yeah, well, I just want to talk about the upcoming Vince documentary that's coming out on Netflix in, I think it's September 25th, so like after next week's episode. I've got so many questions. First of all, like, okay, do you think that it will kind of protect WWE because of the new Netflix WWE partnership, or do you think it is just totally separate and they're going to bury Vince in WWE?
From what I understand, it is completely separate. That WWE would really rather not come out, and Conrad Thompson actually called it a double shovel burial.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Man.
So like, I think they're pulling no punches. It's going to be honest.
Well, I've heard that they're going to address the lawsuits in the beginning.
Right.
And I don't know if they're doing that because they don't want all of the viewers like sitting there through the documentary, like not paying attention because they want to get to the lawsuit part. Or maybe that's just something I would do. I don't know. But what are you hoping to see? Like, what are you hoping to like get out of this documentary?
Honestly, I mean, Vince has just always fascinated me. So
Really?
I know that it goes like back throughout his childhood and then through becoming owner of the WWF and everything. And there's just so many crazy stories about him. In fact, we'll probably talk about a couple during the show, during a specific segment. But, I just want to have a better understanding of who he was. I read the Vince McMahon biography that came out within the past year or so, and it was super enlightening as to why he is the way he is. And so I hope this just builds on that. What about you?
Yeah, I hope they cover that too, because you know me, Justin, I can't read. I try to read and I read a paragraph and then I'm thinking about cheeseburgers and I just
you have
can't
the
read.
ability to read, you just would rather not.
No, I don't have the ability. Like, can I read words? Yes, but I cannot read a book. Like my mind is just something jumbles in there and I just can't. And I've even tried like Audible. And even then my mind starts drifting. I need like podcasts, like an hour, 2 hours, I'm good. But when I download Audible and it's like, it will take 16 hours to listen to this book. No, we're not doing that. No. But I hope to, kind of see why Vince is the way he is. I mean, I assume it's just because he grew up rich and whatnot, but I'm sure there's way more to that. But I'm very excited. I want to know the lawsuit stuff, but I think there are so many stories, like so many of like backstage happenings that we don't know. And that's what I'm kind of wondering is, will they expose all of that? Or because I noticed they have like The Rock, John Cena, like all of these WWE like Vince marks. So that's why I was like, okay, this is the story we're getting. But
I don't see Bruce Pritchard shoveling too much dirt on old Vinnie Mac, but we'll see.
We will see. But as for this week, Justin, we had Bret Hart showing up on Raw on Monday.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, he did not look happy to be there. But it was fun. What did you think?
Yeah, I'm always happy to see Bret, and I tweeted out from our Twitter account, because that's where you tweet things. You don't tweet them anywhere else except for a Twitter account, of an old picture from over 10 years ago of me with the Hitman. So I was always a big fan. I remember the first pay-per-view I ever went to was Royal Rumble 97. And they had the Bret Hart sunglasses for sale, those pink wraparound sunglasses. Yeah. Had to get a pair. I was just always a fan and still am.
I remember you had those and you wore them like out like daily.
Yeah, well, and the best part of this whole Bret Hart thing was when Gunther came out there and said his favorite wrestler was Bill Goldberg.
Oh,
put me on the floor. I thought he was going to say Shawn Michaels.
Me too.
And then he said Bill Goldberg, and I was like, "Yep, that's brilliant. Thank you."
Yeah, I feel like I saw a glimmer in Bret Hart's eye of like, that's funny. That's funny. But yeah, I had heard that he was sick or something, and it was questionable if he was even going to be on the show. So maybe that's why he looked so excited to be there.
Yeah. No, it was good to see him. And we also got to see on SmackDown, they had a whole lot of people who had been a big part of SmackDown in the past, since this was SmackDown's premiere on USA. We got to see everybody from Michael Hayes, who we talked about on last week's show about Starrcade. Yeah. We saw Vicky Guerrero along with some current stars. We also saw Ron Simmons, Teddy Long. It was a fun show.
Yeah, definitely. I know there was a lot of heat about Vicky Guerrero being shown, and I don't know. I swear that woman, like how Oprah doesn't age, Vicky has always looked the same. Yeah. Like she doesn't really age, but I know people on Twitter were heated about that.
Yeah, well, what are they not heated about, right? They're heating and tweeting. But also on SmackDown, back on some of the Starrcades, we had talked about how they had credits for the show on screen, and we kind of talked about why don't they do that anymore? Well, this past Friday on SmackDown, at the end of the show, right down there at the very bottom of the screen, it said executive producers Paul Levesque and Lee Fitting. So in some small way, they are doing that now. Kind of like seeing it, and I wish they would expand it a little bit more to include a whole lot more of the crew members.
Me too. Like I've said in the past, I always want to see like who the camera people are, who the sound people are, because I know a lot of people that work in the business, and it's fun when you see someone I think that Triple H listens to our podcast, Justin, and he took our note, and he wants to do credits.
If that is the case, then Trips, Paul, Hunter, whatever we should call you, enjoy.
I thought you were going to be like, make me a ref and I can be the WWE Bryce Remsburg.
Well, that too. But I gotta dust off my referee application. It's been a while since I used it.
Yeah, you need to dust that up, and probably your body, because I don't think your body can handle it these days without being sore. You're going to break a wrist just doing the pin count.
Yeah, right.
One more thing to mention from this week, and it's not a huge deal, but the Outrunners on AEW, they showed up at Dynamite, and like they quickly built steam. And then when they showed up on Dynamite, it was just like the pop of the century. For those of you who don't know, the Outrunners, they've been in ROH for a while, and they are a super gimmicky 80s, early 90s wrestling tag team, and they are so much fun.
Oh, they're so great. I saw the video I think they posted it on TikTok. It was probably on TV too. That promo video for them where they're like working out in the gym and everything. And it was just, they're so great. And they've done a lot of like enhancement work on AEW before, but they've built a following probably partially on ROH. And I'm here for it.
Me too. I heard a really cool way of describing them. Like, everyone was like, oh, well, that's just FTR's gimmick. Like, that's dumb. But someone on Twitter, like, really, and I wish I had, like, their Twitter handle to give them credit, because they said FTR is a modern take on 70s and 80s wrestling. The Outrunners is a parody of 70s, 80s, and 90s wrestling. And I was like, yes, that is what it is.
I would almost add one thing to that. FTR is 80s NWA wrestling. The Outfitters is WWF.
Outrunners.
Outrunners. They're the 80s WWF wrestlers.
Yeah, because they're kind of more zany, more comical. Yeah, I can totally see that. And someone else he has the same aura as them is just Dalton Castle. And I think he was about to hit it big, kind of like they are in AEW with Dynamite, but he got injured right before that started happening. So I like all of these. I love gimmicks. I'm sorry. I love them. And I love zany gimmicks. And so the Outrunners and like Dalton Castle, like that's just my vibe, man. I love it. It's so silly, and it makes you more like, makes people like more self-aware of what wrestling is.
Right. Like at some point you have to admit that what we are big fans of is goofy as hell, and that's fine.
Right. And I remember early on in the AEW days, like with the orange juice match and how Ortiz was drowning in the ring and swimming, like that's when I knew I liked AEW, because I was like, okay, these people know it's stupid, like, and they're going to play into it. But anyway, Justin, that's about all I've got for this week. Not a lot going on, but I think we need to jump in a time machine because we got a show to talk about, Justin.
Turn that time machine on. I'm ready.
I'm vibing through the time machine.
That was a good one. That was a good one. In fact, I think I just saw the Outrunners walk by my window, so we know we're here.
That's creepy. Why are they outside your window?
I don't know. And it's a patio home. There's a wall around my house. I don't know how they claimed the wall. But
you should make a moat. That would be fun.
Yeah, right. All right, let's get into today's show. We are covering WWF Survivor Series 1987. Took place on November 26, 1987, which was Thanksgiving. The venue is the Richfield Coliseum in Richfield, Ohio. Now, this Coliseum, it was actually demolished in 1999, but turned into a meadow and is part of the Cuyahoga Valley National Park now. That's kind of cool.
That's so lovely. It was turned into a meadow.
Yeah. Instead of that song saying they paved paradise and put up a parking lot, they did the opposite here. It's very nice.
Fantastic. I don't even think I've ever seen a meadow. Have you? Because like
I saw Meadow Soprano when I lived in Las Vegas. I was about 2 feet from her, and she smelled wonderful.
I knew you were going to say that because you were the one telling our sister, like, name your kid Meadow. It's from The Sopranos.
So this show in attendance, about 21,300 fans. Really, really good attendance there. And our commentators, of course, Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura. The number one song on this day in 1987, November 26th. Well, it's the same one as last week. We'll explain that in a second. Time of My Life by Bill Medley and Jennifer Warnes.
And we're going to make you listen to it again. Yes, we are.
Let's do it. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I mean, and I used to play that song on the radio back in my radio days. And every time I just did a little dance there at my microphone. It was great.
Good for you.
So let's get into the background of this show. What can you tell us about this Survivor Series, this first ever Survivor Series?
Yeah. So, obviously, and it even fooled me having the same song of the week or the most popular song because I texted you and was like, hey, what's the song? I got to cut the sound cue. And you're like, it's the same. And I was like, oh, right. Totally. Because as we mentioned last week, Vince McMahon and the WWF intentionally scheduled this show to be on the same night as NWA's Starrcade. And not only that, Justin, but Vince, he took it a step further. He told cable companies nationwide that if they carried Starrcade instead of Survivor Series, they would not be allowed to carry WrestleMania 4 the following year. And guess what, man? The gamble worked because only a handful of cable companies carried Starrcade. Wow. Yeah. Well, the original idea for this show was to continue the feud between Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, which had been ongoing since WrestleMania 3 earlier in the year. And now every match on this show is an elimination tag team match. So the match only ends when all members of one team have been eliminated. Easy enough.
Yeah, and there's only 4 matches on this show. How long could this take?
Oh.
It takes a while.
It takes a while, but before we get into it, we need some
wrestle stats.
There they are. We got some wrestle stats right off the top. Wrestlers still alive. Well, on this show, there were 50 wrestlers who made an appearance on this show in just 4 matches. Out of those 50 wrestlers, 32 of them are still alive. That's 64%. Really good.
Hell yeah.
Really, really good. Out of all the WWF pay-per-views we've covered so far, that's 91 wrestlers, 50 of which are still alive, still above half. That's 54, almost 55%. And then out of all of the pay-per-views that we've covered so far, including this one and all the NWA ones, that's 161 different wrestlers who have had a match before our eyes. 90 of them are still alive. That's almost 56%. We're good.
We're good. And guess what? I realize the longer we go, it'll probably be more likely that we are going to be above 50% all the time. But I don't care. I like that song. I'm going to keep up with the sound cue.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Now, we do have some wrestlers who this is the final time that we are going to see them in a match on pay-per-view in any company. And there's actually 3 of them, and they're all women. Dawn Marie, who, for those of you wondering, not the Dawn Marie who was in ECW, different Dawn Marie. Donna Christianello and Velvet McIntyre. Last time we're going to see them, so enjoy this. And there are no title matches on this show, so title match stats remain the same.
I'm very disappointed this is the last time we're going to see Velvet McIntyre because she gave such big dick energy. I don't have another word for it. This pay-per-view, and I kind of thought she was going to be like, a big deal. So interesting. Yeah. Okay, well, we opened the show with some great red, orange block letters that float into frame, Justin, and they spell out Survivor Series.
This must have cost a fortune.
A fortune. And I loved the visuals, but I was literally getting motion sick. I mean, I get motion sick very easily, but like it started getting too trippy.
Yeah. Well, we get done with that roller coaster ride of graphics, and we see Howard Finkel. He introduces the announcers. Now, usually that's done before the show goes on the air, but commentary, Gorilla and Jesse, they get their own entrance on this show, and they go straight to this raised platform that's over there by the entrance. And because it is Thanksgiving, Jesse is in a pilgrim hat, so that's cool. Yeah. And then after they make their way to their commentary desk, we get an opening montage of clips set to music. When we come back from that, Gorilla reminds us the rules of the Survivor Series. Elimination comes from pinfall, submission, countout, disqualification, or referee's discretion in case of injury.
So that was my question. Isn't that just like any other match, pretty much?
Shh, quiet. It's the Survivor Series.
I was like, is there something I'm missing here?
What do you think this is? Starcade? Ugh.
Well, let's get into the first match. As you said, there are only 4, but we got a lot of wrestlers to cover. So the first match is the Survivor Series 10-man tag team elimination match. So on one side, we've got Brutus Beefcake, Jake Roberts, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Randy Savage, and Ricky Steamboat versus Danny Davis, Harley Race, Hercules, Honky Tonk Man, and Ron Bass.
Quite a team, quite a crew of people there.
Quite a crew. A lot of these guys we just saw on WrestleMania 3. So I'm just going to list those. On WrestleMania 3, we saw Brutus Beefcake, Jake Roberts, Randy Savage, Ricky Steamboat, Danny Davis, Harley Race, Hercules, and Honky Tonk Man. Now, Ron Bass, you know that name because we've talked about it before, but the last place we saw him was at NWA Starrcade 1985.
He's made the jump.
He made the jump. So we have talked about him before, but the one we haven't talked about is Jim Duggan. Now, we saw him on WrestleMania 3. He was the one with the 2x4 with the tiny index card American flag, but he didn't have a match, so we didn't talk about him last week. Or 2 weeks ago. Dang. Time flies, Justin. So let's talk about Jim Duggan.
I'm telling you, this time machine, it's wonky sometimes. You got to twist the thing or...
You got to kick it and see where it'll take you. So Hacksaw Jim Duggan, he was born in 1954, and he's still with us today at the age of 70. Now, he debuted in 1979, and he just had his last show. It was just an indie show in Canada in 2019. He was signed by the Atlanta Falcons, but he got released after a bunch of knee injuries. So obviously the next step is go be a pro wrestler, right? If you have knee injuries.
I mean, there's no knee injuries in pro wrestling, never.
Well, before signing with the WWF, he had previously worked in Mid-South Championship Wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling. And although he never won a championship in the WWF, he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2011. So,
and I think Duggan's got to be one of the most famous wrestlers from this era, despite never winning a championship. People remember the 2x4. They remember him sticking his thumb up and going, ho! They remember him being cross-eyed. They remember a lot of stuff about Jim Duggan.
Yeah, he's one of those. It's kind of like, like Psycho Sid. He just had an aura that everyone liked about him. And, but anyway, let's get into the match.
Before the match, Craig DeGeorge is backstage with Honky Tonk Man's team. Honky says this is the greatest team ever formed for the Survivor Series.
Yeah.
There's a reason. Anyway, Craig DeGeorge is still a sports broadcaster to this day under his real name, Craig Minervini. He actually even returned to the WWF world briefly in 2001 as a commentator for the original XFL. So little skip over the years there, and then he came back. Pretty cool.
Yeah, now, I got stuff to say about Craig, but I'll save it for later.
Oh, okay. Okay. You raise the Craig alarm when you're ready. And I'll, I'll lay out. But the wrestlers enter separately here, even though they're on teams of 5, but they're quickly behind each other. You don't get like a full entrance for each one, which is good. Unfortunately, on this first match, Howard Finkel announced Ron Bass, but we saw Danny Davis. And then when he announced Danny Davis, we saw Ron Bass. So little bit of hiccup there, but that's okay. It's live TV.
I was very confused because I was like, I really don't remember Ron Bass looking like this. I know it's been a while since Starrcade 85, but I really don't remember this. Speaking of Danny Davis, though, I guess he's still going with the ref thing because he's got these fantastic Beetlejuice, like black and white striped pants on. It was great. But, right away, I felt like he was going to be the easy fall guy for a quick elimination because he didn't really fit in like in either group. He was kind of this smaller, goofy dude. And I just thought he was the easy one to be pinned first, but that's not what happened.
Yeah, and if you look back we talked about this on WrestleMania 3 when he would get in there to get a couple of hits in and then tag right back out. People want this guy to get his ass kicked. Mm-hmm. And he plays that role perfectly.
Definitely. Yeah. And
you mentioned Beetlejuice. Because I guess that new Beetlejuice movie is coming out soon. Yeah. And I was wondering, like, do kids now know who Beetlejuice is?
I think so. Because this movie, I think it came out last week. And I think they only know because their parents, like our age, made them watch it.
Yeah,
I really think so. Yeah.
Probably so. Yeah, but Brutus, he enters with the hedge clippers as a follow-up to the whole hair cutting thing that we saw at WrestleMania 3. Duggan, he's got his 2x4. Everybody's got a prop here, I guess, is the thing. I wonder, though, like, did he or somebody have to go to Home Depot in every city that they went to go buy a 2x4? Or, like, did he have to, like, check it as luggage, like, every single time? Or maybe he just bought it, a separate ticket next to him on the airplane?
That's a good question. I'm thinking back in the day, like now it would be an official prop that WWF takes care of. But I'm thinking back in the day, he probably like had one that he would use until it broke or something. Then you go buy another one because, wood's expensive, Justin.
Oh, that's true. I did not think about this. The price of lumber did not factor into my thoughts on this. You're correct.
Exactly.
You're correct. Savage out here with his prop, Elizabeth. Oh. Excuse me.
Oh, Justin.
Come on. Look,
it's true.
It's amazing how Elizabeth really did nothing of note. But due to her being the focus of storylines over Randy Savage's jealousy, she was like just this part of the package that you can't take her out of this whole era at all.
No, and I keep waiting for her to do more because, I've always heard about Miss Elizabeth and how she was just such a big deal. And so I keep thinking, okay, in the upcoming shows, upcoming years, maybe she'll do more. I'm holding out hope, but the way you're talking, I feel like it's not going to happen. But
yeah, but you know what? Here's the perfect way to put it is I feel like the look on Elizabeth's face is always like when your parents would go take you to see like Barney Live or the new Power Rangers movie. And they were going along with it, even though they didn't understand it. They wanted to be there to support you. That's the vibe that I get from Elizabeth all the time.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. But at least she's beautiful. I mean, at least she gets to get her face on TV. But yeah, you're kind of right on that.
Now, if you're keeping count here, we have already heard Gorilla call this show a happening 4 times, and the match hasn't even started.
Yeah, man, I noticed that. And I was like, I'm going to start a Gorillaism count for the whole show. But then I realized I won't pay attention to the rest of the show because I'm going to be listening for that. And there's so many of them. So I said, screw it. I was like, maybe the Rassle Stats guy will keep a count one day. I don't know.
I was keeping a mental count and I went, all right, I just got to watch this show.
I know. There's too many. There's too many Gorillaisms.
I know. Now there's 2 referees, one on the inside, one on the outside. Also on the outside, the ring steps. They are once again the wooden ring steps that are on the side of the ring leading up to the apron rather than the metal steps that are in the corners that we see today.
I don't like it, but speaking of that referee in the ring, do you know who that is?
Oh my God. If it's the one I'm thinking of, is it the one is he the same one that's in the big tag team match later?
Yes.
Yes. I don't remember his name right now. I could find it out though.
Okay, because he has an interesting look about him. I almost feel like he's like related to Andre somehow, his face. But he soaks his shirt with sweat like halfway through this match. And then he comes back later, I think in the 3rd match, And I'm like, dang, you're gonna make him work again? That man, he sweated it out for you.
Yeah, no, he gets to looking haggard later in the night. We'll
He looks
touch on that.
bad. His
Yeah.
hair's all messed up, and he's just like.
Now, since Harley was king of the ring at this time, his trunks had a big gold crown on the butt, but it kept bothering me that the crown was like off center, which made me think his trunks are off center, which made me think, God, that's got to be uncomfortable. Either that or his butt's off center. I hadn't thought about that.
I bet his butt is off center, or one cheek is bigger than the other.
That could be it. That could be it. Happens to all of us at some point. I mean, it comes with age. Your butt just becomes uneven,
like, oh, no.
and one cheek just balloons up, or the other one deflates. And
it's whatever side you favor when you sit on your butt watching TV.
Yeah, right, exactly. Now, Ron Bass, I'm not saying this to be mean. I think everybody would say he looks fatter here than when we last saw him on Starrcade. Is it just me?
No, I really did not recognize him, because at first I thought Danny Davis was him, because they misnamed him in the entrance. But yeah, he does look bigger.
He's having to do that whole wear your trunks around your gut thing. Like,
yeah, he definitely.
You couldn't see his belly button because it was somewhere down in there.
Every woman in like above the age of 28 these days understands what he's doing. That trick. It's a great trick. I'm not judging him at all, but maybe he thought like, oh, I'm going to WWE, I have to be big. So he just put on weight however he could.
Vince is like, wrong kind of big, damn it.
Well, something I noticed, and maybe I'm wrong, you can correct me. I feel like now in wrestling, there is such a distinction. There's like, okay, there's the jobbers or enhancement talent, mid-carders, and then like your big superstars. But back then, it kind of felt like all the quote mid-carders were just considered wrestlers. And they were all on the same level. And then you had like your mega stars like Andre and Hulk. Like, what do you think? Thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. Because we've seen some guys at this point jump over from NWA to WWF. And I didn't remember them really doing much. But in kind of researching them, I went, oh, well, they actually had like some feuds and some title shots and that sort of thing. So, yeah, it almost feels like you weren't hired to a full-time contract unless there was a plan for you, which is good.
Yeah, they should really take that into account now.
Yeah. Now, the mesh on Brutus Beefcake's tights. Now, it started as just a couple patches of mesh back on WrestleMania. It now extends all the way down the sides of his legs. Like, we don't have much more room to progress until we see his little beefcake.
You gotta stop with that little. What did you say last week about Ric Flair? You said his little what'd you call it?
Boy? I don't know.
Little nature boy, that was it. And now you're talking about his little beefcake. I don't like how you refer to a man's junk as the little version of him. It's weird.
Wait till we get to Orange Cassidy.
Oh God.
We're going to see his little mandarins.
His little clementines. Oh God. Well, no, I couldn't tell if that was mesh at first. I was like, okay, is that the color of the pants or is that mesh? But you mentioned a while back that Brutus always looks like a Chippendale. And yeah, that mesh, that's a lot.
He even had the little bow tie on like a Chippendale.
Yeah. It's like he's leaning into it.
I know. I wonder if he was a former Chippendale. We should look into that. Maybe he was. I don't know. Fun fact that I just decided to note here. The blue liquid that barbers keep their combs in when you go get your haircut, it's called barbicide. I just thought that was interesting.
I just always thought that was Windex.
No, it's barbicide. Barbicide sounds like what happens when you murder a barber. Barbicide.
It's true.
Actually, that should have been Brutus's finishing move name, the Barbicide.
What the hell? It's probably because no one knows that blue stuff is called barbicide, so they'd be like, what the heck does that mean?
Listen, Triple H, I know you're still listening. You had to go up and get some popcorn and some pretzels and pickles, that sort of thing. I'm telling you right now, barbicide, bring Brutus back. He's like 70, but I think he can still go.
I think he can still go too. Totally. Well, I like the end of this match. So the match ended in 24 minutes with the survivors being Jake Roberts, Randy Savage, and Ricky Steamboat. But it wasn't just like a clean, super little bow on the package finish. No. Honky Tonk just pieced out, Justin. He realized that it was 3-on-1 and he just noped right on out of there. But I thought it was a great like heel move on Honky Tonk's part because, you know, it's like he knew he couldn't win, but he played it off as like, oh no, I'm just going to get out of here because that's not fair and I don't deserve that. But what I thought it was doing was I thought it was leading up for Hogan to later be 3-on-1 and then to take out all three to elevate Hogan. But spoiler alert, that's not what happens at all. But I should be a booker because that's what that should have been.
Yeah, no, I mean, Honky said he had enough. And I thought it was funny too that we go back to a shot of the ring and Jake has the snake around his neck. I'm like, what? Why did you, what? You didn't even use the snake. Why'd you just pull it out? You need to get some air or what? I don't know. But crowd was actually hot for this match. I mean, they really seemed to dig it. They were really into every moment of it.
I think so too. And I think that, you know, it was exciting. It's the first of Survivor Series. And it was the first time you saw like that many people involved in one match that we actually knew and wasn't a bunch of random football players. So, right. But backstage, Craig DeGeorge was with Andre's team. And so this Craig, we got to talk about him.
Is this the Craig alarm? Do I need to go get some more water?
Yes. And okay. You do. So he's freaking me out a little bit. And this was the point I realized why. He looks like one of those Charlie ventriloquist dolls, like in the little, sorry, I should wait till you're not drinking water. He's like short and small and he has the tux with the little red tie and even his hair is so like perfectly sculpted. It looks painted on. Like, and he looks so small. Does he not look like a Charlie doll?
You know, now I'll never be able to unsee it. So thank you.
You're welcome. Great. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Well, Bobby Heenan, he does most of the talking in this interview because it's become clear to me that Andre only speaks one sweaty sentence at a time. he can't do more than that. So Bobby does the talking with his back to the camera, as always, talking into the microphone with his back. And it's just like pure chaos during this when you're trying to interview like 10 different people. And that's kind of a theme of this show. But obviously he's hyping up the guys and he is very sure they will come out in victory.
Yeah, all those guys are like behind him just yelling and slapping each other on the back. And yeah. It's like we're going to see that same interview 8 times tonight. Like it's just a thing.
It was chaos.
But after we get done with that interview, we go back to a crowd shot, and Gorilla says that this show is owned by the World Wrestling Federation and any reproduction or distribution is strictly prohibited. At which time tape traders across the country stuck fingers in their ears and went, la, 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 not listening.
Justin, you're going to like, I'm going to like, you know, what's the word? I'm going to expose myself as a baby. What's a tape trader?
Oh boy. So
I don't know.
So people would get videotapes of wrestling shows that didn't air in their area. And it could even be stuff from like Japan or something. And then the wrestling magazines would have like addresses and stuff of people who also had tapes, and you could connect with them and say, well, I have this. Well, let's send these tapes to each other. And so it was a way to see wrestling that you wouldn't have been able to see otherwise from other territories or companies or even countries.
So it's the internet, but like pre-internet?
Yes.
Got it.
With less Twitter. Yes.
Okay. That sounds like a great place.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the next match. It is a Survivor Series 10-woman tag team elimination match. Here are the teams. Team number 1, Dawn Marie, Donna Cristianello, the Glamour Girls, and Sensational Sherry versus Fabulous Moolah, the Jumping Bomb Angels, Rockin' Robin, and Velvet McIntyre. So some of those names probably sound a little bit familiar, but a lot of them don't. And a lot of them we won't see again, so it's okay. So let's get started with Dawn Marie. Now, I will be honest with you here. I looked up and down for more information on Dawn Marie, and I couldn't find much. I think she was born around 1948, which would make her about 76 now. I think she's still alive. I think she debuted around 1985. I think this might have been her last major show she ever did. I have no clue if any of that's true. And I looked up and down.
Where are you, Dawn Marie?
Yeah, reach
please
out,
reach
Dawn
out.
Marie.
Yeah,
Tweet at us on Twitter, because we've established that's where you tweet things, is Twitter.
well, and she's 76, so she obviously has a Twitter.
Well, she certainly has a Facebook, because that's where all old people go to bitch about things these days.
Next Door. The Next Door app is even worse if you've ever been on
the
that.
Next Door app. Like, I feel like Next Door app is like the chatty coffee time at the cafe, whereas Facebook is like a dead mall where all that's left is old people who get into fights. Like,
hey, I like Facebook. I know how it works.
yeah. Oh, well. But we go on to now Donna Christianello. Donna Christianello, this is also the last time we're ever going to see her. May 23rd, 1942 is when she was born, making her alive today at the age of 69. Yeah, I see the look you're making on your face, because go ahead and say what you texted me when you watched this show.
It's mean. I said, there's a woman who is very old on this show. And then you were like, is it Donna? And I was like, yeah, it is.
Yeah. So I think I can figure out, let's see. I think I can figure out how old she was on this show. So she's 69 now. So let me explain my math here. So what I do is I go back 10 years. So that would be 59, and then we go back another 10 years. So that'd be 2004. So she'd be 49. And then we go back another 10 years. I think I figured she's in this match, she was 82.
Well,
That's
well, I'm confused. Is she still alive or is she dead?
no,
Yeah.
I think she's still alive. Wait, no. Yeah, no,
That's
she's
why
still
I was
alive at
making-
70. No. Yeah, it's 69. I don't know. She was trained by the Fabulous Moolah. Okay. So that gives you an age range. All right. She lived with the Fabulous Moolah on and off for 40 years.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine? And then helped train Sensational Sherry, who's also in this match. But as we've talked about with Moolah and what we learned about her over the years and on that Dark Side of the Ring episode, knowing Donna Christianello lived with her for all those years, it raises some questions. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, you wouldn't know if you were alive or dead either after living with Fabulous Moolah for 40 years.
Judy Martin, she's one half of the Glamour Girls. She's still alive today at the age of 68, made her debut in 1978 and had her last match, we think, in the early 90s in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, she was the reigning women's tag team champion on the show with Leilani Kai as the Glamour Girls. She was trained by Leilani Kai and the Fabulous Moolah. And then after retiring from wrestling, Judy Martin worked in law enforcement. How about that?
Her. Cool,
Yeah,
cool.
now Leilani Kai, her partner, last saw her on WrestleMania 1. We will see her again at some point during our journey here. But let's talk about the Sensational Sherry. I got a lot of love in my heart for Sensational Sherry.
Me too.
Born in 58 and died, unfortunately, at the age of 49 in the year 2007. She made her debut all the way back in 1980, finally had her last match in 2005 in Tampa, Florida, at an independent show. Now, she was trained, as we said, by the Fabulous Moolah, but she spent most of her career and was actually better known as a manager in both WWF and WCW. And I mean, she managed everybody: Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, Harlem Heat. She was all over the screen, had a great run with Randy Savage as well that we'll see coming up, and that'll be a lot of fun. She's a one-time women's champion. In fact, she was the women's champion on this show, and she was inducted into the WWF Hall of Fame in 2006, just about a year before she died. So,
yeah, she had an episode of Dark Side of the Ring, but it was kind of more sad. Like, everyone thought she was this great person, but it was just kind of like her life and how it went. It was just kind of a sad story.
It is. And unfortunately, she passed away from a drug overdose.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just how it was. On the other side of the ring, the other team, the Fabulous Moolah, last saw her at WrestleMania 2 in in-ring action. We didn't see her on screen at WrestleMania 3 with Harley Race. Now, the Jumping Bomb Angels, I'm telling you, I dig these women. I think they're great. The first of them is Itsuki Yamazaki, still alive today at the age of 58 years old. She was quite young on this show and had her last match in 2017 over in Japan. Prior to this, she had won the All Japan Women's Championship. And then after she retired, she owned a sushi restaurant in New York City, which I think is awesome.
That is the
Like,
coolest thing I've ever heard.
if that thing was still standing, I don't think it is, but I would so go there just to meet Itsuki Yamazaki. I think that's great. Now lives a quiet life in New Jersey. So that's Itsuki. Norio Tatino on the other part of her team, also still alive today at the age of 58, ended her career in 2010 in Japan, where she was also the All Japan Women's Champion. And she worked in wrestling consistently all the way until her retirement match at an event promoted as her final match. So both of them, nice long careers there. And we have Velvet McIntyre, who we've talked about. Last saw her in a match on WrestleMania 2. And then finally, Rockin' Robin, still with us today at the age of 59. Made her debut just 1 year before the show in 1986. Final match in 1992. So not just a whole long career. Now, she is the half-sister of Jake Roberts and the sister of Sam Houston and daughter of Grizzly Smith. She was a one-time WWF Women's Champion and now runs a real estate appraisal business in Louisiana.
Cool. We should like buy some property in Louisiana and have her come appraise it.
I will get on that right after I get off the phone with Triple H after this podcast.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
you went through those bios and I was just doing the math in my head. The Jumping Bomb Angels were like 21 and 22 during this match. So yeah, they were super young.
Very, very young. Now, unfortunately, the women don't get entrances for this match. When we come to the ring, they're already in the ring after that backstage segment with Andre's team. Also, unfortunately, when Howard Finkel says, "This is a women's match," I did hear, that was a terrible Howard Finkel, by the way. You know who does the best Howard Finkel impersonation?
Who?
Luke Gallows in the WWE.
Really? How
You
random.
got to look up clips. It's so good.
Okay.
But anyway, he actually talks about the phone call where he first got hired from WWE years ago, and it was Howard Finkel who called him to give him his travel details. And he does the impersonation. It's so good. But when Howard Finkel says it's a women's match, I did hear one guy in the crowd go, "Boo!" Just another wrestle stat. That guy is still alive today, and he is alone. Just telling you now.
Dude, I heard that and I came to put it in the notes and like I want to find him and smack him, but then I realized it's probably considered elder abuse at this point. Yeah, that's right, dude. I called you old because you were probably like 40 back then. That was 40 years ago. So
Yeah, boo that.
boo that.
Yeah. Now the Glamour Girls, they're the reigning tag team champions. They're managed by Jimmy Hart, who has changed jackets into one that says Glamour Girls on the back. I forgot that he used to do this, but he would change his jacket for any wrestler that he was managing on the show, no matter how many. That's a really cool touch, I think.
That is a cool touch, especially when some of his jackets are hideous. So he needs to, throw a bunch out there and see which ones will stick.
Exactly. Yeah. No, and then Sherry, she actually had wrestling gear here.
Yeah, she had really cool wrestling gear. I mean, like the other 9 women, they were in swimsuits. But I did appreciate that Velvet wore like this bright pink swimsuit because did you notice most of the ladies were in black? Like once they took off their jackets and everything, they were all in black. And I feel like this really made Velvet stand out.
Yeah.
Because, she was the bright, shining wrestler in all of the black leotards. So I liked it.
Yeah, and not to make this about the women's looks, but the 80s vibes are strong here because Velvet McIntyre, she has crimped her hair. Remember hair crimping back in the day. And then the Jumping Bomb Angels, they're wearing bedazzled denim jackets. I loved it. I loved the whole 80s thing.
Hey, and just to be fair, I talk about the guys' looks as much as I talk about the women's, so it's
True.
fine. The crimped hair, noticed it, definitely put that in my notes. That was everything. Velvet was barefoot once again, but there was another woman. Oh, and I forgot who it was. I think it was Dawn Marie. Maybe it wasn't. Incredible mullet. I mean, fantastic mullet. It was, oh gosh, best mullet I've ever seen. Yeah, but I was enraged, brother, because once again, we're announcing all of the women's weights, but not the guys. Notice that?
Well, yeah, but they announced Fabulous Moolah at 160 pounds, and she did not seem happy about it. And even the commentators made a note about it. Jesse said, "Oh, 160 does sound a little beefy." Why would they do that?
Douchebag. 160 is a totally normal weight for a woman. And she's like she's about to go on Medicare, man. Like she's like in her 60s. Like give her a break.
Yeah,
Gosh.
right. Speaking of commentary, Jesse mentions here that you can see him in the current #1 movie in America, Running Man, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. And Gorilla says that he has seen the movie and he confirms that it is indeed a happening.
Yeah, well, I know this was super random to me because he just starts talking about that movie and like his movie career. And I'm like, way to wait until the boring old women's match, Jesse, to talk about your career because you wouldn't dare do this during a men's match. Have you seen The Running Man? Like, is that
I've not.
You've not? Okay, because I haven't even heard of it, but it is like a wrestling movie, right?
No,
Oh,
I
it's
don't. I don't
not?
think so. No,
I just Googled it real quick and like scrolled the IMDb. I thought it was a wrestling movie, but I guess not. No. Okay.
I don't think it is. No, but you talked about this match being boring, and it definitely had its ruts because like a lot of moves in this match start with somebody being shot off the ropes. It would be like throw him into the ropes, clothesline, throw him into the ropes, tackle, throw him into the ropes, fart on him. Like a lot of going off the ropes on this when it got a little bit old.
Yeah, it was a little bit old. And I wondered so going into the match, I was like, do I just not know these women or are they really not that well known? Which now that we've gone through the bios, I'm like, okay, they really weren't that well known, most of them. But I didn't know if maybe I was just a little bored, which I wasn't even bored. I expected more out of it. And yeah, I agree. It was off the ropes and then something and then something and then okay, go tag and now the next girl's gonna do it.
Yeah.
But Gorilla did say something funny during the match. He said, let me get this quote right. Quick tag ins and out. That's what it's all about. We doing the hokey pokey. What are we doing? And then like I got to thinking, whatever happened to the hokey pokey? Like this was such a huge deal. Like in PE in elementary school, like what happened to it?
See, that's why I want to just keep a close eye on the upbringing of our nieces and nephews, just to get an idea if they are still taught the things that we were, like the hokey pokey. Because like I remember it is what you would do when we would go to the roller skating rink.
Yeah.
And everybody do the hokey pokey, right?
That's the thing is we learned it in school. We did it in PE. We went to the roller skating rink. It was at birthday parties. Like we'd all do the hokey pokey. And so
I guess I could also just ask my wife who works in education and lives with me, but
well, I would ask
that'd be
our
too
niece,
easy.
but our niece, she takes like professional ballet and acro. So she has no time for
She bypassed the whole hokey pokey 101. That's
right.
too
And
low
she's
for
only
her.
3. Like what the hell? These children are so advanced.
Now, the stars of this match, I said it earlier, it's the Jumping Bomb Angels, and they were just so fast and impressive, and they're pulling off moves that none of the other women were doing. I mean, this was stuff that was straight from Japan, and it was like, oh man, like they are the stars of this one. Unfortunately, commentary wasn't really sure which one was which or how to pronounce their names or something, because anytime one of them was in the ring, commentary would just call him the Jumping Bomb Angel.
Yeah, they did. And honestly, Justin, I don't blame them because they did look similar. They're the same age. They're wearing the same thing. And this brought me to the question of, were they actually signed to WWE or were they brought in kind of 2024 TNA New Japan style where they were just kind of brought over for a match and then would go back?
I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that they at some point did win the tag team championships. I think it was after this, though. I'm almost sure it was after this. And so maybe if they were like on loan from All Japan, which was a thing at the time, maybe it was just a temporary agreement, because what a lot of Japanese wrestlers would do and still do to this day is go on what they call excursion, where they go wrestle in other places, including America, just to get a feel for different styles and crowds and that sort of thing. Maybe this is the case, but I don't know if they were ever actually formally signed or not.
Yeah, because I was thinking I might be a little more forgiving for Gorilla and Jesse if they weren't signed and were just kind of brought over. But because, sometimes random New Japan talent pops up on AEW and I'm like, I don't know their name and I don't remember their name because it was, a name that I don't hear every day. But then again, I'm like, you're getting paid and you're a commentary. You should probably learn who they are.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Moolah gets tagged into the match finally, and even though she's on the babyface tag team, she gets booed. Do you hear that?
Yes. Okay. So before I say what I'm going to say, why do you think she was getting booed?
I don't know. I mean, we saw her earlier in the year with Harley Race, remember, at WrestleMania. So I don't know what caused her to go over to the good guy team, but the crowd wasn't having it.
No. And so I noticed that she looked like she was over this match, like super over it. She was giving Bret Hart on Raw on 2024 vibes. Like she was not having it. And so I was like, was she mad she was getting booed? Or was she mad she wasn't going to win the match? So was she just like, I don't care. I'm just going to.
I don't know. And there's so many women in this match who had, she had some hand in their training or something. So I don't know if she was just like the ring mother for this match or something. I have no idea. I don't know. But yeah, you're right. She did seem like she didn't really care. But it does bring me to my next point. When the jumping bomb angels are in the ring during this match, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Wow. When they aren't in the ring, the match is all right. Not great, not awful. But when Moolah is in the ring on this match, it's terrible. Like maybe she was just having a really bad night. Maybe she's starting to feel her age, but she didn't have a good showing here at all.
No. And I mean, I get it. At this point, she's 63. So maybe she is feeling her age, but I mean, you're getting paid to be on TV on like the top wrestling, like fake it, man. Like, I mean, change your face because like I said, it was all over her face. We say it in like theater, like if you mess up, like in a play or in a dance, don't show it on your face and no one will ever notice. So that was the thing. She just looked so pissed off to be there. And
and like even when she bounced off the ropes at one point, the ropes barely touched her back. Like she's just going through the motions, like she was rehearsing a match or something. It was off.
It was off, definitely. I don't know. I'm curious to see how much longer we see her.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Now we did get one screw up, as you were just talking about screw ups in live performance. At one point, Leilani Kai is pinning Norio, and Norio does this impressive neck bridge out of a pin, but the bell rings. Yeah. And everybody is like kind of looking around like, LOL, what? But the referee waves it off and they move on. But for a second there, it was definitely vibes of like, what is that guy with the bell doing over there?
I was confused, but then it just kept going. I was like, okay, maybe it was just something I didn't understand. But no, I'm glad that it was a mess up.
Well, and as this match goes on, the crowd does seem to feel a little bit dead. I mean, the match before this was just so high-paced and big energy from the crowd. But that all changed when Jimmy Hart got up on the apron and Norio hit him with this drop kick. The bump that Jimmy Hart took off of this drop kick, it was beautiful. They actually replayed it later. If I can explain it, imagine he's standing on the apron. He gets the drop kick. He drops down to his butt on the apron. And then he starts to fall backwards, but his legs get tripped up in the rope. So that's like bump number 2. And then he slides down and falls flat on his head and his back for bump number 3. It was like a pinball. And it was so perfect for such a little weasel like Jimmy Hart. I loved it.
Well, bro, the scream, I scrumped on that. That's my new favorite phrase. He took that. That was a hard fall off the apron, man. And when it happened, I threw my arms up. Whoa! That was impressive. But, you kind of talked about the crowd being dead up until that moment. I think it's because the female wrestlers weren't super well known. I think they were like, yay, Sensational Sherry, Fabulous Moolah, maybe even Velvet McIntyre. But everyone else, it was just kind of like, okay. So maybe that was why the crowd wasn't into it. Because they weren't.
Maybe so.
Bad wrestlers. It was just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the match just got like very repetitive in some points. A lot of shooting off the ropes. A lot of Velvet McIntyre was doing that the slingshot thing she did that several times, and it's already a dumb move to begin with. So I don't know. But finally, we get a pinfall here. Itsuki pins Judy Martin for the win in about 20 minutes is when this match ended. And the survivors are the Jumping Bomb Angels. That's it. That's the shortest match on the show here tonight, 20 minutes. So overall, any final thoughts on that one?
I did not expect the Jumping Bomb Angels to end this as victors at all. Just because I got the vibe like that they seemed, and maybe this is my 2024 eyes, they seemed kind of mid or like they were visiting from another company because they weren't super, they didn't get an entrance where we hyped up and got to see the importance of them. So I kind of assumed they were like filler mid-card talent, but I was glad they got the win because they were certainly the top wrestlers of the match.
Yeah. Well, backstage, Craig DeGeorge is with the heel teams for the next match. Jimmy Hart runs in after just taking that massive bump, and he's changing jackets while he's running in because he manages the Hart Foundation, who's in this next match. And he's frantic, and he's like, and he's saying this and that. And finally, all he can manage to get out is, someone's going to get hurt, and we're going to hurt something, and then gets back out there.
He is quickly becoming one of my favorite characters in old school wrestling. Like, I've always known who he is, but again, kind of like Ricky Steamboat and stuff, like going back and seeing it all like in real time, it is just so, I appreciate it so much more.
Yeah.
So much more.
Let's get into this next match. It's a big one.
Yes, my goodness, I'm hitting my mic and everything. I'm so excited. So this is the Survivor Series 10-team tag team elimination match. What does that translate to? We've got 20 wrestlers involved in this match, Justin. Goodness.
Yes.
All right. So on one side, we've got the Bolsheviks, Demolition, the Dream Team, the Hart Foundation, and the Islanders versus the British Bulldogs, the Killer Bees, the Rougeau brothers, Strike Force, and the Young Stallions.
Lots of animals.
I got to take a breath. Goodness. All right. So some of these dudes we've seen before, but some of these dudes we haven't. So let's talk about them. We've got Boris Zukov, and he's part of the Bolsheviks, obviously. Now, he was born in 1959, and he is still alive at the age of 65 today. He debuted in 1978 and had his last show just about 12 years ago, 2012, in Rocky Mount, Virginia. Did not know that was even a place. He started his career in Jim Crockett Promotions, where he was known as Private Jim Nelson. Which
wait a minute,
Yeah. Jim
Nelson. Are you trying to tell me? Let's just hold the phone here, Triple H. I'm sorry if you're listening. I need some clarification here. Are you saying that all of these Russians that we have seen on all of these pay-per-views, some of them were not Russian? Is that what you're telling me?
I mean, Minnesota could be a place in Russia. I don't know. Like,
I am sorely disappointed here.
I'm sure.
I feel like wrestling has lied to me.
They have lied to you. Totally. Oh, I get it. But anyway, he formally retired in 2001, but returned to the independents as Jim Nelson. So the whole Boris Zukov thing, it went away. He doesn't eat borscht anymore.
Jeez.
Yeah. In 1991, he was listed at number 360 on the top PWI top 500 list of wrestlers. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, his tag team partner, Nikolai Volkov, we just saw him in WrestleMania 3. He's one of the ones I actually know when I see him. The other Russians, I get so confused. But we've got Axe, who is a part of Demolition. Now, he was born in 1947 and he debuted in 1972. But get this, he was born in 47, so he's 76 now. He just had his last match of 2017 in Georgia. So that's pretty cool. He had previously competed in WWF as the Masked Superstar and Super Machine, if you remember any of that. Later, he took more of a backstage role within the company and was replaced by Crush. And Andre the Giant was the godfather to his two daughters.
Oh,
fun fact. Isn't that cute?
That is.
Well, Smash, the other half of Demolition, we actually saw him on NWA Starrcade 86, but he was Crusher Khrushchev.
Can you believe that? So we got a new fake Russian, and then we lost a fake Russian to become Smash. So I think we're like, that's even, right?
I mean, I guess that's how wrestling works.
Wrestling math.
Yeah. So this next one, it's kind of a fun one to talk about. I need a podcast over our next one. Dino Bravo, half of the Dream Team. Now, He was born in 48, but he died only at the age of 44 in 1993. And he had his last match just a year before he died in 1992 in Vermont. And now he was the only person to hold the WWF Canadian Championship. Whatever happened to that? Like, I haven't even heard of that.
I think it came with Dino and left with Dino. I think it was almost like Taz's FTW belt, but not quite as like, it's all mine, you know.
I'm like, we need a Canadian belt now because there's a lot of great Canadians around here. But all right, Justin, this is where it gets fun now.
Okay.
Allegedly, everybody. Allegedly, he became involved in organized crime, which allegedly led to his death when he was gunned down inside his home.
Yeah.
I mean, this was the whole subject of like an episode of Dark Side of the Ring. It was. I need to go back and watch it again. But like, I just watched The Godfather for the first time. Oh my gosh, great movie. I've always heard it's a man movie. No, it was fantastic.
Breaking news, everybody. The Godmother, pretty good movie. Pretty good.
Pretty dang good. But so when it's organized crime, does that mean like mafia or just like cartel drug dealing, non-mafia?
You go watch The Dark Side of the Ring again.
Allegedly,
yes.
Right. Well, our next view, the other half of the Dream Team, Greg Valentine, we saw him on WrestleMania 3. We also saw the Hart Foundation there. So we've got them back. Now, we got to talk about the Islanders, man, because they came out and I was like, okay, Bloodline. Just looking at them, I was like, okay, Bloodline. Now,
allegedly.
So I heard his name pronounced several different ways on this pay-per-view. It's Haku, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I heard Heiku. And I was like, okay, I don't know who's right and who's wrong.
That was like, Hey Jude. That's coming up. That's a different thing. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, we last saw him on WWF WrestleMania 2 as King Tonga. So he was in the Battle Royale, the big one. So he didn't get a bio, but he was born in 1959. So he's 65. He's still with us today. He debuted in 78, but his last match was this year at an indie show in Kentucky. So he might have another match. We don't know. But so far, that was his last match. Whew. So at the age of 15, he actually left his buddy Tonga to train as a sumo wrestler in Japan. And his adopted sons are now seen weekly on WWE as Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. And he has another son who is a New Japan star named Hikuleo,
who is rumored to be coming to the WWE
that's what I was about
soon.
To say.
Yeah.
So I always call them just the Tonga Tongas on WWE because I don't know why. So I don't know.
Well,
but
now we're gonna have to have like Hiku Tonga. Or
we need like a family tree graphic to pop up on here so we can show this properly. But you know, Justin, I did hear Haku has a long lost son named Namatata.
Hakuna Matata.
It means no worries for the rest of your days, Justin.
I know what it means.
I was real proud of myself for that one. I was hoping you wouldn't see it in the notes because I had to put it there so I could remember. But oh Lord, it's hot in here. It's hot in here. So he is known to be one of the legitimate, most tough guys to ever work in the business. I mean, this is all unconfirmed, allegedly.
Allegedly.
But he got into fights outside of the ring, and that included him biting off a man's nose. What the hell? Like, is that even possible? He used his fingers to break off another dude's teeth. That hurts me. And he bit a chunk out of a man's back and spit it on the floor. This is my kind of dude.
I think the guy's just hungry. It sounds like he's just hungry and just, didn't want to wait for food to come out and just started a fight and ate a nose, ate a back.
I think he's been doing those bath salts. Remember the people that were doing bath salts and eating people?
God.
It was like a zombie thing like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That was crazy. Well, let's talk about his fellow Islander, Tama. So he was born right around the same time-ish. 65, he is now 58 years old, and he debuted in 83. And like Hakuna Matata, he also had his last match in 2024. So we don't know if that's even his last match, but it was at an indie show in Ohio. So shocker, he's connected to the bloodline too. His son is Jacob Fatu, who just joined WWE. His brothers, Thomas brothers, are Rikishi and Umaga, and he is the uncle of the Usos and Solo Sikoa. So how is he related to Roman Reigns?
Yeah. Well, okay. So Roman Reigns' dad was Sika of the Wild Samoans. So I don't know how it works.
How is Roman related to the Usos? Aren't they cousins?
They're cousins, yeah. So somewhere in there had to be like a marriage or something.
I need a family tree. I need a family tree.
I know.
Well, after leaving the WWF, he wrestled for WCW and in Puerto Rico. Now, he actually did interviews for the Dark Side of the Ring episode about Jimmy Snuka. So
you can see what he's like now.
Yeah. So as for the British Bulldogs, Davey Boy Smith and Dynamite Kid, we saw them on WrestleMania 3, as well as the Killer Bees, B. Brian Blair and Jim Brunzell. We saw them, the Rougeau brothers. Rougeau. You know I like to say that one. We saw
best salad dressing company out there, the Rougeau brothers.
We saw them and Strike Force, which has Rick Martel and Tito Santana. We saw all these guys on WrestleMania 3. So go back and listen to that episode if you want to hear more about them. But you know who we haven't talked about is the Young Stallions. Yes. So Jim Powers, he's the first half. He was born in 58 and he is actually 66 years old. So all these guys are like the exact same age, it seems like, around this era. Like everyone else recently, he had his last match in 2024 at an indie show in England. That's the last match as of right now. I feel like all these guys saw Sting doing his thing on AEW and they're like, you know what? I can still go too.
I got one more in me. I got one more run.
Exactly. And then I'm like, how old is Jeff Jarrett? I need to Google that. His tanning probably, doesn't help. But he was discovered and trained by Big John Studd, which I'm like, Big John Studd was training people?
Yeah, that's surprising.
Yeah. But he had a 2-year run in WCW in the late 90s. And he previously has retired twice. But obviously in 2024, he still pops up here and there on different indie shows. So, Paul Roma, he's the second half of the Young Stallions. He's the same age as him. He's 65. He debuted in 84, and he might have actually had his last match. It was in 2021 at an indie show in California. He actually made his wrestling debut at a WWF TV taping.
That's
how crazy is that? Like how lucky is that?
First wrestling match, that's some pressure right there.
Yeah. I mean, I would be nervous just going out in like Midland, Texas and doing a wrestling match for my debut. He later formed a tag team with Hercules called Power and Glory before leaving for WCW and becoming a member of the Four Horsemen. Woo.
How about that?
Well, now,
unfortunately, he's one of the ones that people point to when they talk about the Four Horsemen and go, oh yeah, and then they had Paul Roma for a little while. That was weird, but good for him.
He gets to say he was a part of it.
That's right.
It's like when, I don't know, a boy band tries to replace someone, or Linkin Park trying to replace Chester Bennington with this woman that supports Danny Masterson. I don't know if you followed that, but people are mad, and I'm like, that's everything Chester was against. But anyway, done with that now. Last little fun fact about Paul Roma is he runs a wrestling training school in Connecticut.
Oh,
we should go.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, they have the backstage interview before this one, and it's funny to see the Bulldogs and the Rougeaus on the same team here, and even cutting up together during the backstage interview. These two teams, the Bulldogs and the Rougeaus, they had huge backstage heat with each other, huge. There was backstage fights. There was suspensions. At one point, Jacques Rougeau punched Dynamite Kid in the mouth with a roll of quarters in his fist and knocked out his teeth. These two teams did not get along at all.
Wow, man. And then everyone's freaking out about CM Punk and Jack Perry. And it's that was nothing compared to what these dudes used to do.
Yeah.
I mean, man, but at least they could still, get together and work together because, these days, not so much. But did you notice Matilda the Bulldog is back?
Heck yeah, I noticed Matilda.
Heck yeah, but Jesse was rude. Gorilla states, he was like, Matilda looks to be in shape. And Jesse says, Matilda's never been in shape. Rude. Like fat shame the dog, why don't you? And probably just because she's a female, because we like to talk about weight on females on this show, apparently.
That's future governor of Minnesota, Jesse Ventura, everybody.
Oh gosh.
But speaking of ill-fated decisions here, Strike Force, they had matching trunks. Rick Martel's had a Canadian flag on the back, and Tito Santana's, obviously you can guess what his had on the back, right?
I mean, I didn't notice. I would assume a Mexican flag.
A sombrero.
Oh my God. Maybe it's because they knew he's not from Mexico. He's from El Paso, right? Or he's from
somewhere in Texas.
In Texas. So maybe it's like the Texas culture. I mean, I like a good sombrero, but yeah.
Don't make excuses for this.
That's true. And Jesse still calls him Chico. So
yeah,
no,
exactly.
Excuses.
So 20 guys in this match. Can you imagine the line for the showers after this match?
That would be
like they're just all standing around and they got their towel and their soap and Matilda's humping one of their legs and like, hurry up in there. We got to be in Poughkeepsie by midnight, you know?
That would be one of those times where I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to wait till I get back to the hotel. I'm just going to wait. I'm going to hold it.
Yeah. Now, since this is the first time we've seen them, we should point out it's often said that Demolition was Vince's answer to the Road Warriors. He couldn't get the Road Warriors at the time contractually, so he made his own in Demolition. To me, they look like two bondage experts, but they were a great team and they were a legendary team and they should be in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Thank you. That is what I put in my notes. I said, why does this guy look like a weird dominatrix Sting? Like even the makeup and the hair, like it looked like 2024 Sting, like with the kind of wild hair. And I don't even know which one that was, but I mean, sure, Vince, I don't know. Do the Road Warriors end up in WWE? Did you say that?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Why are they not in the Hall of Fame?
Well, for a while there was a class action lawsuit against the WWE by a whole bunch of former wrestlers saying that they had all these injuries and they weren't taken care of for it. The suit was thrown out of court, like laughed out of court, basically, because it was just so nonsensical and wasn't well done. Maybe it could have been won a different way, but this one was not good.
Well, that makes sense. Well, I appreciated the quick pin in this match. And, you know, I had been thinking, why does it take so long for the first pin? Because that's not super feasible. You know, you're going to get your best guy and your worst guy probably at some point. And I felt like the pin should happen faster, but we did get that quick pin with Tito over Zukov. Well,
and what we should point out too is if for this match, since it's 10 tag teams, if one guy gets pinned, his normal tag team partner is also eliminated. So one pin eliminates two guys off the other team. So
we had to do that or else it would be like a day-long match. There's 20 dudes.
Yeah. Now we've done the butt crack alert before. And as of today, we did the Craig DeGeorge alert. But we now might also need a ball alert because I'm pretty sure that during one of those pins, Paul Roma had a little bit of slippage when his leg got pulled up into that pin.
No.
I think so.
God. I want to like go back and look, but that would make me a really weird person to be like, I'm going to go back and find this moment so I can see that guy's balls.
And, you know, there's got to be some Reddit for that or something. I don't know.
What am I going to Google? Paul Roma balls?
It'll come up with like some sort of meatball in an Italian joint.
I was about to say Roma's meatballs.
Now they did you see this? They seem to be having trouble with the arena lighting during this match. At one point, the whole left half of the crowd was in darkness, and then those lights came on, and then like the whole crowd went into darkness, and it was like that for a bit, and then they came back on. Did you see this?
Yeah. I didn't know if it was an artistic choice or not.
Who do we blame for this?
Vince. We blame Vince. It's always Vince's fault.
That's true. But I thought maybe we should blame Frankie the Parrot because he wasn't on this show. And we saw him looking into the camera on WrestleMania 3 all close. What he's actually telling us is, I want to be on Survivor Series. If I'm not, I'm going to turn off the lights.
That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You're a dad this week.
We're watching a show with guys named the Killer Bees. The dumbest thing you've ever heard.
The killer bees are amazing. They're like my favorite. But dude, Bret Hart looks friggin' fantastic in this match. Like his physique, his charisma, like no wonder he became a top guy. And like it almost made me sad, Justin, because like I saw him on Raw this week and he just kind of looks like an old man and he looks mad. And like seeing him in his prime to now, I'm like, is he happy? Is he happy now? I hope
It's
so.
hard to know, right? Because like he's got money, he's got a nice house, got a wife, kids are, I don't know what his kids are doing now, but I guess they're successful. But yeah, I don't know. He was always a real low-key guy, like he wasn't ever just super emotional. So who knows? Who knows?
mean, I know I'm like super cynical, and I feel like maybe by Brett's age, I'll be even way more cynical. So I can't judge him because I'm probably the same way.
Now, 20 guys in this match. You know what I noticed among all of them? That I could see not a single tattoo.
Really?
20 guys.
Why do you think that is? Was that just like not a thing in the 80s?
I mean, tattoos were a thing. I mean, we saw Harley Race earlier. He had them. We're going to see Bam Bam Bigelow. He has them.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why. The only thing I guess is a lot of guys in this match were body guys. And so maybe they didn't want to ruin the look of their physique by putting a tattoo on it. Also, 20 guys in this match, 4 of them named Jim. Just throwing that out there.
That was one of those names. That's like the Aiden, Jaden, Caden of our generation. Well, you know what? I did see 20 guys. You may not see a tattoo, but I see 20 guys with melanoma because they were all so freaking tan. Like, goodness, like they were all standing there. And I think it was like one of the Russians was pale and was a normal color. But like the amount of like wrinkles and cancer in their future, it kills me. I mean, I had melanoma out of nowhere when I was 22. So I'm very like anti-tanning bed, anti-everything. And man, it was killing me seeing all those dudes in their leathery glory.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was really hard for me, to comment on this match. Because I felt like with 20 wrestlers, there was no time to ever get any momentum going. It's like anytime there was time for something to kind of build, they'd tag out and the next guy starts the match all over again from his point, And so there was never any time for, 2 wrestlers to build up enough momentum to get a really cool move in. So I felt it only got exciting toward the end of the match when it was down to like 5 people.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I found myself getting bored with this match. And I always know when that happens because I have to my focus switches from the story of the match and the flow to literally the individual moves themselves. And I find myself going, that's a good punch. Nice way to lock in that headlock rather than getting invested in the match.
I agree with you. Yeah, that's because I'm trying to find something to talk about like for this show. And I'm like, then I end up with a long list on my phone that's like a headlock, a DDT. And I'm like, well, that's not fun to talk about at all.
Yeah. Well, and I think the crowd agreed because it seemed like they were starting to get bored with this match as it went on and on and on. And on those hard cam shots, like the crowd is motionless. Like they're just sitting there. They look like they ate too much Thanksgiving food that day, quite frankly.
They probably did. Justin, how do you feel about Thanksgiving? Do you like Thanksgiving?
No, I don't dislike it, but I also don't really care about it.
Would you like to have an event like this on Thanksgiving that you could either go to or just watch on TV?
Yes, absolutely. In
that.
fact, I remember it was Survivor Series 93, I want to say, and I was supposed to go to it. And then we couldn't get tickets or something like that. It was going to be in San Antonio. So we watched it at our Uncle Keith's house for Thanksgiving. We ordered it on pay-per-view and I loved it. Like I would be so happy just having like a big, good pay-per-view on Thanksgiving. What about you?
Oh, I would love it because everyone who knows me knows I hate Thanksgiving. I don't know why. I don't like it. I think it's pointless. And I don't know if it's because maybe I feel like the pressure's on me to make it happen sometimes, or maybe it's because like I got married and I have all of my in-laws here and then all of my family and then my parents are divorced. And so all day I'm just running around trying to get to everyone's houses rather than enjoying the day. Like it's just like it's almost like a checklist of things I have to do, have to make. It's just work. I don't like Thanksgiving.
This has been the Wrestle Recap therapy session with our patient today, Michelle Tate.
I hate Thanksgiving. I also hate Christmas, but people get mad when I say that. So I just think Thanksgiving is a pointless holiday. That's what I think. And I wish I had some wrestling to go along with my pumpkin pie with a whole tub of Cool Whip on top.
We should plan like some sort of like Wrestle Recap. I actually like this idea. Wrestle Recap playlist for Thanksgiving for people who either don't have anywhere to go on Thanksgiving or people who don't care about Thanksgiving. And we set aside, here is this list of pay-per-views to watch on this day, courtesy of Wrestle Recap.
Definitely, especially if we include the ones that were on Thanksgiving, actually. Yeah, I'm with that. Well, you know what, Justin? The match ends. It was 37 minutes, and the guys who won it were the Killer Bees. The Killer Bees won the match, and they are officially my favorite tag team, and I hope they stick around for a long time. I kind of feel like they won't, unless at least under this gimmick, because I haven't really heard about them a whole lot, but they get the win. But what was weird is they were like the face, right? They were like the baby faces in this match. Well, they cheated. They put on these goofy masks, and I guess it was to like confuse the ref on who the legal guy was, which why was the ref not like, hey, why'd you put a mask on? But it was that dude that sweat through his shirt earlier. So maybe he just wasn't having it. But the Killer Bees and the Young Stallions survive, man, after 37 minutes.
And that referee is the one we were talking about earlier. And he felt every one of these 37 minutes because by the end, his shirt is completely untucked. He's sweaty. His hair is a mess. And he looks literally like he got in a bar fight before this show.
He looks rough. You know, I see like, like Paul Turner will do those hour-long matches and he still looks pretty good at the end. He's not huffing and puffing. He barely breaks a sweat. So this poor guy. But next we get a long vignette with $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase.
Oh my God.
This whole thing was so confusingly wonderful. So first he's like in the back of a limo and he's just counting all this money and he says, you got to have tons of money to survive. And I mean, clearly he's living in 2024 because you got to have tons of money to survive these days, everybody. Ayo. But it shows him making like, it just cuts to, he's like in an arena, I guess at a previous show, and he's making this random child do push-ups. And I was like, who is this kid? Is this Dominic? Like, and I was like, okay, what's happening? And then he gets another kid and he tells him, hey, if you can dribble this basketball 15 times, I'll give you $500 because judging by your looks, you look like your family needs the money. What? So then the kid is like, I can do this. I can, dribble. So he's dribbling and he gets to 14. Then Ted just kind of kicks the ball away and denies him the money. And I'm thinking
story time
real
on this.
Kids? Like
story time on this. Now, Ted did do an interview years later saying that was set up. The family absolutely got the money.
Okay.
But many, many years later, Ted DiBiase was in an airport, I want to say in Omaha, and he goes to the rental checkout counter to get his rental car. And the person giving him his rental car says, Ted, do you remember me? And it was that kid named Sean, all grown up, who ended up going to college on a basketball scholarship. They took a picture together, and I'm going to tweet that from our Wrestle Recap account. It's an amazing story.
Holy crap. So yeah, like I was wondering, does the kid know beforehand what's going to happen? Or did they want that pure? Okay. I didn't know if they were just like throwing the kid to sacrifice him and to like see his real reaction. Okay. Yes. Well, next we've got this old woman, a senior citizen on her hands and knees barking like a dog.
And a lot of people who have watched this think that was Linda McMahon. I'm pretty sure it was not. I can see the similarity, but I don't think it was Linda McMahon.
That was too old to be Linda McMahon.
Yeah.
I think. Wow. Well, and then he's like making people kiss his bare feet in the ring.
I got another one for you.
Oh,
that
Lord.
Kid who was kissing his barefoot in the ring, that is a very young pre-wrestling Rob Van Dam.
No.
100%.
What the hell? No wonder he smokes so much weed now. He's trying to get that foot taste out of his mouth. What the hell? And also, I'm looking at that and I'm like, I feel like Rob Van Dam should have been like 20 in that era, not like a kid.
Yeah.
Huh. Wow. Well, I just had so many questions. I do really love when wrestlers are dicks to kids, though. I don't know why. Like, I just think it's great. And this whole vignette just was screaming MJF to me. Just talking about how he's better than everyone because he has money, and then being, dicks to children. Because you hear about MJF at like those wrestling cons when he'll be like flipping off the kids. He's like, "Screw you! I'm not gonna sign that."
Well, and we had mentioned Vince earlier, and the car that Ted DiBiase is driving in this shot, that's Vince's car, and the shots in the office, that's in Vince's office. Vince basically created this character to be the evil person that he felt he could be. And so so he wanted to put all this, he invested so much into the DiBiase character. He would give him stacks of cash just to flash and spend at places, just so he could always live in the character of being the $1 million man.
Well, hey, that's fun. If Vince wants to hand me stacks of cash, I can pretend to be him. Well, Gorilla and Jesse talk about tonight's show, followed by a quick honky tonk man interview. And like, it's very obviously like they are killing time here because it took forever. And I was sitting there thinking, like, what are you doing? Like, your pacing's been pretty good this show, but something happened. They were killing time.
Yeah, maybe they just had to fill their pay-per-view time. I don't know. But one thing that Jesse said during this actually made my ears perk up. He said that Andre the Giant has not stepped in a ring since WrestleMania earlier that year versus Hulk Hogan. And I thought, like, there's no way that's true. He at least had to be doing some house shows or something like that. So I looked it up. And it turns out that other than a dark match about a month after WrestleMania, Andre truly had not been in the ring since WrestleMania versus Hulk Hogan 8 months before this.
So, like, is he ready?
I mean, at that size and with considering his health at that point, he didn't have to be ready for much,
Yeah, and he was real sweaty in those interviews. I feel like that man just sweat 100% of the time.
Yeah. Well, let's get to the main event here. It is our final Survivor Series 10-man tag team elimination match. Team number one, the good guys, rather. Bam Bam Bigelow, Don Morocco, Hulk Hogan, Ken Patera, and Paul Orndorff versus Butch Reed, the Heenan family, and One Man Gang. So we've seen a lot of these guys before, but some we have not. Let's start with Bam Bam Bigelow. Died at the age of 45 years old in 2007. So young. Made his debut in 1985, last match in 2006, just a year before he died in Florida. He was billed at 400 pounds, and that may be fairly legit. Bret Hart at one point called him the best big man to ever work in the business. And you can see that here. He's so just quick and agile for a guy his size.
Well, for a big guy.
Yeah. Now, while working as a bounty hunter, he was actually in jail for 6 months in Mexico. And if there's anywhere you don't want to be in jail, it's Mexico.
Did he so wait, was this like before his I'm just wondering if he had all the tattoos and looked as scary as he does here.
I wonder. That's a good point. I don't know when he actually got those. I would have to think so, though, because he was a pretty intimidating guy. But he worked pretty much anywhere you can think of. WWF, WCW, ECW, NWA, New Japan. He was all over the place. So he really packed it in. Don Morocco, he's a good guy now. He was known as Magnificent Morocco, but he is now Don the Rock Morocco. We got Hulk Hogan. Saw him on Mania 3, of course. Ken Patera. Now, he is still alive today at the age of 81. Had his last match in 2011 in Illinois. Before he became a wrestler, he competed as a weightlifter, where he had a whole lot of success. He even competed in the 1972 Olympics. Wow. So you can see here he's got the red, white, and blue on, almost like a Kurt Angle with an afro looking guy. But one time WWF Intercontinental Champion. Now get this. In 1984, Ken Patera was denied service at a McDonald's because they were closed. So what does he do? Like the calm, rational human he is, he throws a rock through the window and was later sentenced to 2 years in prison.
He got 2 years for that? I feel like that happens like every day in like Los Angeles or something. Like,
yeah, I don't know.
Wow.
But rounding out that team, Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff. Haven't seen him in the ring since WrestleMania 2, so good to see him back. And on the other side, we got Butch Reed. Saw him on Mania 3, as well as Andre the Giant, King Kong Bundy, and Ravishing Rick Rude, who the last time we saw him was on NWA Starrcade 1986. So he has now made the jump over to the WWF. And finally, the one-man gang who's alive today at the age of 64. Last match in 2009 on an indie show. Now, he was actually the top heel in the UWF before his purchase by Jim Crockett Promotions. And we'll see him later on as Akeem the African Dream. It's something to see. It is a sight to behold. After wrestling, he actually worked as a prison guard in Louisiana. So another one going into law enforcement. So that's our two teams here tonight. Now, once most of the heels are in the ring, Bobby Heenan takes the mic from Howard Finkel to announce Andre. He says that Andre is the uncrowned WWF champion and the next WWF champion. But if he's already the champion, how can he be the...
I was thinking, I was like, I think that's just one of those things that Bobby came up with, like, to make people like you and me be like, huh?
Yeah. Well, and you had mentioned this when we covered WrestleMania 3, how you could have sworn that Andre got a 3 count on Hulk Hogan during that match. That's what they're playing off of here. Bobby and Andre are saying that was a 3 count. Andre should be the champion right now. So you were right.
I knew I saw that, and I didn't know if they were ever going to acknowledge it. I feel so validated right now.
Now, in a backstage interview with the good guys, Hulk Hogan's bandana has these tassels that are hanging down over his eyes, and he looks less like a wrestler, more like a Bollywood movie actress. Very weird.
Totally thought the same thing. They were just like hanging in his eyes. And like the placement of his headband, it always kills me because it's always like, I don't know. I feel like it should be up here. It's always here. And I feel like it cuts off circulation. And it's like the top part of his head is like purple and getting swollen. Maybe that's just his forehead. I don't know. But those headbands, man, they kill me. I'm ready to go to the bandana era.
Yeah.
Hogan.
Yeah. Which he will even wear in court on trial, which is...
Lord.
Yeah. Anyway, Bam Bam Bigelow enters the arena. He's managed by Sir Oliver Humperdinck, who we have not seen before. Now, he had previously been a manager in the NWA, so it's kind of amazing that we've never seen him on a Starrcade managing anybody. His time here in the WWF lasted only about a year before he would leave and return to the NWA right around the time that they became WCW. But sadly, Oliver Humperdinck died in 2011 of bladder cancer, but one of those legendary managers that had a lot of people under his name.
Was he the ginger in the sparkly jacket?
Yes.
Okay, because they never even really like acknowledged him or gave him a name. And what was so funny is when they were in the backstage with the Chaos interviews, he was just standing in the very back corner, but Bam Bam was just totally blocking him out. And so I'd be like, Mark, who's that guy? And he's like, what guy? I'm like, there's a guy behind Bam Bam. And yeah, he had like this ginger mullet and he had like the sparkliest jacket I've ever seen.
Yeah. No, that's Oliver. Now, as Ken Patera enters, we told you his story a little bit ago. Jesse Ventura says, I can't believe these people would cheer for a jailbird gorilla. So there was that.
I guess I assumed it happened after this, but no, I guess it happened before. Well, this Ken Patera dude, he looks like, well, I would say just ours, but I think it was kind of everybody's like elementary school PE teacher that was like a woman from like the 80s, 90s. It was the fluffy hair. I think that was it. And the sun, like, I don't know, just the outfit, it straight up looked like our PE teacher from school.
Yeah. Shout out to Miss Leibel.
Hey, Miss Leibel.
Now, when Don Morocco enters here, commentary mentions that he's filling in for superstar Billy Graham, who is at this time recovering from hip surgery, which I'd forgotten about. But holy crap, is Don Morocco massive here? Like, he is not just thick and bulky, but he is veiny as well. At one point, he does like just some yell like, "Whoa!" And I swear to God, every vein, vessel, and capillary in that man bulged out of his body.
Is this an alleged case of the thing that gives you back knee and whatnot?
I allegedly, I have no idea what you're talking about. I know nothing about it.
Well, something that is not alleged is the fact that they kept referring to him as The Rock, and it was really throwing me off. It was really throwing me off. And now I'm curious, like, how long they call him that. And then when they came up with The Rock's, like, the real Rock, when they came up with him being The Rock, did they not think like, oh, well, I think that was already taken by Don Morocco back in the day?
I think at that point they were hoping that there had been enough fan turnover. They're like, we can call him The Rock. It's fine. It's fine. It's way better than Rocky Maivia.
I mean, yeah, you're right. But, you know, Butch Reed and Hulk Hogan are wrestling at one point, and they literally have the same color, like skin tone wise. So like, for those of you who don't know, Butch Reed is a black man. And we've talked about in the past how tan and leathery Hulk is. We're like, how does he get that dark? But they literally are like grappling onto each other. And it is the exact same skin tone. I'm like, cool it with the tanning, Hulk. Cool it.
I feel like he still does it. Like if you see Hulk today, like he's still just like deep dark orange. And it's like, dude, you don't have to look good for anybody anymore. You're old enough to just be an old guy. You don't have to be tan.
And I feel like he was like tanning and doing spray tan, because that was like next level.
Yeah. Well, I have a question for you. Was there a kid in the audience holding up a giant pair of white underwear?
I didn't see it.
Maybe there was something in my burrito, but I swear I saw a kid stand up like on his chair and hold up a huge pair of white, tiny, whitey underwear.
Maybe he got that, like they were someone's gear, like I don't know, like
Hogan's old white trunks when he used to wear white or something,
or someone bigger, like Abdullah the Butcher or someone. They're just holding up. No, I did not see that, but.
Of course, like if it was Hogan's, it'd just have like orange stains all over.
I was about to say, yeah. Huh. Well, no, I didn't see that, but like I'm trying to think, like, why would that be a thing? Maybe it was like it had something written on it and we just couldn't see because it wasn't very high def.
Maybe so. I don't know.
Maybe. That's really funny. Well, you can't convince me that King Kong Bundy and Bam Bam Bigelow aren't the same person, by the way. They look so similar. Other than the tattoos, they look really similar. But then also, King Kong Bundy and Andre are both wearing like their black swimsuits, and they look like they're twinning as well, because they're standing over on the right side, and I was like, they look exactly the same. And King Kong Bundy's pretty big. And then lastly, speaking of twinning, when I was little, I thought our cousin Micah like was Bam Bam Bigelow, because I thought they looked the same, because Micah had a shirt with flames on it like Bam Bam Bigelow, and so I thought he looked a lot like him back then.
I had no idea that I grew up with a celebrity wrestler.
You did, Justin. You did.
Like that. I like that. Well, Jesse Ventura wonders why Joey Morella, who is Gorilla Monsoon's son, as we've mentioned, gets to referee all of Hogan's matches. I'd like to point out this phenomenon is retroactively known as Rick Knox Young Buck syndrome, also known as Aubrey Edwards Chris Jericho syndrome. No known cure. It's just a thing.
Well, at least Joey Morella like can see and actually calls things. No, that's not hate on Aubrey there. That's Rick Knox. Justin and I actually have Rick Knox jokes that we text each other during AEW shows during his matches. And
we were actually going to incorporate those into this show at one point, but then it just fell off. But
yeah, it didn't make sense talking about it like back in the day. But I still swear we need to put those on the Wrestle Recap Twitter, because we are hilarious, Justin.
There's a lot of jokes you can make about a blind referee.
Yes, there is. Well, yeah. So after I thought it was weird. So Hulk he pins Butch, and then he goes around and he turns around to go high five his team. And Andre, he like quietly gets in the ring and just approaches him from behind. And that was such a great visual and a great moment, because he's all celebrating. It's like, turn around. But I thought it was interesting that, and I thought it was actually really cool that they did this. His high fives counted as tags.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he turns around, the ref's like, no, you have to go in.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was weird, right?
But we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
But you know, we talked about at one point, I think it was last week, that how people slapping each other fives was no longer a thing that we know of, unless, you know, you're way behind the times. I noticed another one. At one point, the crowd is yelling, "Andre sucks, Andre sucks." And somebody in the crowd has rolled up their program or something into a tube and is using it as a megaphone to chant. You don't see people do that anymore. That was ingenious stuff.
That was great stuff. And no, you don't see people do that anymore because now they just give you a stupid QR code to scan and you read the little program on your phone. You don't have the paper, the megaphone tube. You
got to get one of those stupid folding phones and shout through that.
I'm just going to start bringing my own paper towel tube in my back pocket and pull it out and yell at people. Yeah, they took that from us, Justin. They took it.
On a close-up shot from one of the ringside cameras, there's a long blonde hair hanging from one of the ropes, and that's just gross.
I saw that, and I wondered whose that was. I was like, was that left over from like Velvet McIntyre?
I think so. It's one of the women's hairs, which is it's gross. Well,
speaking of hair, oh my gosh, Paul Orndorff, dude, what are you doing? He's got a hybrid of the Buster Brown and the Edgar. Like it's awful. Those little bangs.
He needed some barbicide.
Boom, that's a callback.
There you go. Speaking of the ringside cameras, the ringside cameramen are now in the dark blue WWF coveralls that they would wear deep into the 90s. These dark blue things. In fact, I saw somebody had posted their wrestling collection. It might have been on TikTok. They owned a lot of memorabilia. And one of the things they had was one of those dark blue coveralls from the WWF cameramen in the 90s and 80s. Pretty cool.
Ooh, that is cool.
Yeah. Now, remember how I said on WrestleMania 3 that Hogan is a heel?
Yeah.
Okay. So what if when he gave that high five earlier, he knew that was a tag and didn't want to face off against Andre?
I mean, was he that smart?
Well, let's just go on. Now,
okay.
Hogan brawls with Bundy on the outside on this match and gets counted out. Mm-hmm. And then he gets back in the ring and, quote, wants Andre, but the referees won't let him near Andre. And Hogan is being such a baby about the whole thing that they have to announce if Hogan doesn't leave the ring, Andre's team will be awarded the victory. As I said last week, Hogan is a heel.
But like, how do people not see this? Because he is a heel. He's 100% a heel. Growing up, I even thought he was a heel. Like, and I believe it more so now looking back. Like, I never thought he was the good guy. Yeah. So and that's a really good point. You know, like he escaped Andre twice technically, but then acted like he wanted it. So that's a good point. But, because, Bundy kind of pulled Hulk out of the ring and kind of, quote, like held him there. Maybe Hogan let it happen. But I was shocked when they didn't reverse that call because I really thought some shenanigans were going to happen and he was going to be put back in. And then he left. And I just was surprised that they would do that to their top star because they were just blowing the hell out of Hogan at this point. And so I was just waiting for them to be like, oh, no, it was Bundy's fault. He's eliminated and Hulk Hogan gets to stay. But no, that never happened.
Yeah. Well, and then that leaves Bam Bam as the only guy left on that team. Finally, Andre pins Bam Bam with a crappy side suplex. That's the finish. The match ends in 24 minutes and 26 seconds. But immediately after, Andre is the sole survivor, and Hogan runs back out and hits Andre with the WWF Championship belt. Again, Hogan is a heel.
Are we even questioning it at this point?
Well, just in case you are. After that, Hogan is taunting Andre, swinging the belt from side to side like he's saying, I have this and you don't. Hogan is a heel.
So are they going to acknowledge this?
Well, that's the thing. Bobby Heenan said it for years. Bobby was always pointing out, always cheating, always being a dick. He's, whatever. And Gorilla, of course, was like, will you stop? He was right. He was right all along. Even Jesse agrees on this one. Andre and Bobby go to the back while Hogan's music plays. And Jesse says, oh, what an egomaniac. He lost the match and he's out here celebrating like he won. I'm with Andre and Bobby and Jesse on this one. Hogan's being a dick.
I 100% agree with all of you men. I agree. And I want to know, if you were back there in that time, you're like an adult watching wrestling in 87. Did you see it as clearly as we see it now?
Yeah, because you think about all that Hogan fandom and Hulkamania, and you think of the kids, how much the kids were into him.
Mm-hmm.
I have to think that adult fans of the NWA already hated the WWF product because it was too flashy and showy. And adult, like deep wrestling fans, the people who today would be known as like your Meltzers or whoever, would also be like, well, that doesn't make sense. If he's a babyface, why is he doing all this heel stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is I'm wondering like Vince or whoever was coming up with his story, did he know what he was doing or was it a careless, mistake that they just looked over? There's
I
no
think
way
they
they
would
didn't
think that
know.
nobody would care.
Well, I care. That's important. Well, it drove me freaking nuts. Freaking nuts. How like he lost, he was out. They didn't bring him back. But then he stood in the ring for 10 minutes after just posing. And like, okay, if that's their biggest dude, like not their biggest dude physically, but like that's their biggest dude, like why didn't they just let him win? Like, if you're going to have this dude come out to the ring and pose for 10 minutes, like, I mean, I guess they did kind of protect him with that bogus count out, but the whole posing at the end was way too much for me. Way too much.
I mean, like, who won the Royal Rumble this past year? Oh, Cody Rhodes.
Mm-hmm.
So what if like Cody Rhodes won, but then Shinsuke Nakamura is out there doing poses on the turnbuckle and stuff, pointing at the WrestleMania side? Like, what are we doing here?
No sense. None.
Yeah, no sense. Anyway, match is over. Backstage, Mean Gene is with Andre and Bobby Heenan. Bobby says Hogan can have Andre. All he has to do is sign on the dotted line. And spoiler alert, we're going to see that contract signing when we cover the first ever Royal Rumble here in just a couple of weeks. After Bobby gets done talking, Andre says something. I'll be honest, could not understand what the hell Andre said here. Probably my fault. He has an accent and a deep voice, and sometimes I just can't understand him.
I don't even think it's accent. I think it's truly the like timbre of his voice. It's so low, and us as humans aren't used to hearing like that low register. So I think that's what makes it harder to understand.
Well, we go back to Gorilla and Jesse. They argue about the main event finish before bidding us goodnight and tossing us to a photo montage of the night's events.
However, before they leave, Justin, Jesse says that he is leaving Cleveland and he is happy about that. So obviously Cleveland's reputation remains the same today.
Yeah, thanks, Logan Paul. Anyway.
Oh gosh, man, that whole thing's a mess. We need to do, okay, I figured something out, Justin. We need to do a whole episode. We need to do one after we watch the Vince documentary, like a little mini episode. That would be fun. We should do that.
That would be fun.
But also, once this whole Logan Paul thing, because I heard rumor that he's signing as a full-time wrestler, but I feel like it's going to be like another Vince story. So at the end, we need to do our own Logan Paul doc of every little thing that happened.
We'll do our own dark side of the ring.
Exactly. Yeah.
Dark side of the recap.
Yeah. We definitely, though, Justin, do you agree we need to do a recap on the Vince doc?
Oh, yeah. No, I think
even if it's
we
like
can
a
do
little
that.
20-minute mini episode, that'd be fun.
I think we can do that. Absolutely. So let's talk about what happened after this pay-per-view.
Yes. So many people on the show that we can't cover what happened to all of them before the next pay-per-view, but here are just kind of a few highlights. Randy Savage and the Honky Tonk Man would continue their feud over the Intercontinental Championship. Now, Randy never came out on top, which allowed Honky Tonk Man to continue his record-setting reign. Oh, sorry. I think he's funny. I think he's funny. Is he like, I hope he's not like a terrible person in real life.
Not that I've necessarily heard.
Good, because I think he's hilarious. So Strikeforce would move on from their feud with the Hart Foundation, defending their titles in a feud with Demolition, which would culminate the following year. Andre the Giant formed an alliance with the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, who offered to buy the WWF Championship from Hulk Hogan. And once Hulk Hogan turned down that offer, he and Andre would build toward their eventual rematch, which it better not be a lot of hugging and bear crawling, bear hugging, whatever, because that last match, I got thoughts on it. But anyway, what are your final thoughts about this pay-per-view, Justin? Because I got a lot of them, but let me hear yours.
So, wasn't a fan.
Okay, good.
It obviously, this is the one that was running in competition to Starrcade, and as long as you don't consider star power and, flashiness and everything, Starrcade was the better wrestling show than this was, in my opinion.
For sure. I agree. What did you think of because obviously Survivor Series is not what it was then. Like, what did you think of all of the, let's put like 12 wrestlers together and have it elimination match? Like, just the format of this Survivor Series. What did you think?
There was no stakes. Like, it didn't matter who won. It didn't matter who survived. If it was something like, even years later, when they kind of started bringing this back a little bit more, it always felt like, well, what if, like, when they were doing it as Raw versus SmackDown for a little while, what if the brand, whoever brand won the most matches, they got a member of their wrestler to be number 30 in the Royal Rumble or something like that? It just, when there's no stakes, it's like, well, who cares? I mean, you could use it to further some storylines within the match, but I'm okay not watching this one again.
I am too. And I feel bad saying, because obviously I love wrestling, but this was my least favorite pay-per-view that we've covered so far. And I think it's just me on a personal note. I mean, yeah, they don't have any stakes, so we don't really care as much, but just me, the structure of the matches, I am so easily distracted, I guess, or maybe I'm not easily entertained. I don't know what it is, but I kind of talked about it earlier. Like, if you give me an hour-long match between like Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, I'm going to be there for the entire hour. Like MJF and Will Ospreay, I will be there for the entire hour, loving it. But when it's like a 40-minute match, but we've got 20 different guys in and out, I can't focus enough because there's so much going on. And so, yeah, I really just wasn't a fan of this format of Survivor Series. And it was hard for me to watch. And it kind of went back to that commentary where you're like, okay, he did a headlock. That's kind of where I was at because there was no momentum built in any of these matches.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I mean,
it's we will tell you to watch this show if you want to see some of the funny stuff that we talked about, that we noticed here, and notice funny stuff on your own. But if you're watching it for a great wrestling show, we have other recommendations for you. Put it that way.
Yeah. And if you find any funny stuff, and this goes for any show, tweet us and let us know because we like funny stuff. Yeah. Well, do you want to give me some of the final
Wrestle stats?
There you go.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Wrestle stats after this show. The most matches on WWF pay-per-view. Well, it's Randy Savage. He has the most. And on the women's side, it's actually Fabulous Moolah, Leilani Kai, and Velvet McIntyre with 2 matches each. Now, the most wins, it's a tie for the men. Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat each have 5 wins on WWF pay-per-views, while Fabulous Moolah is the only woman who has 2 wins. The most losses, oh boy, it's a 4-way tie between Don Morocco, Greg Valentine, Nikolai Volkov, and Roddy Piper, who have all lost 3 matches on WWF pay-per-view, while Leilani Kai has lost the most for the women with 2. Not many rematches on WWF pay-per-view. In fact, we've only seen 1. So the rematch percentage right now is 1.92%. Now, there are some wrestlers who we haven't seen on WWF pay-per-view in a while, and we will see them again at some point, but we don't know when. The 3 who we haven't seen in the longest at this point, Barry Windham, Matt Bourne, and Mike Rotunda. At this point of Survivor Series 87, it's been 970 days since any of those 3 appeared on WWF pay-per-view. And there was no title matches on this show, so the title match percentage overall dropped to 19.23%. And if you like cool stats like that, you can go to twitter.com/WrestleStats. Fun announcement. Been going under this whole revamp for WrestleStats. It's been down for the past 2 or 3 weeks. If all goes according to plan, then in 1 week, on what would that be, September like 23rd or so, WrestleStats will return with a brand new look and some cool new options. So be on the lookout for that. If they want to follow you, Michelle, where could they do that?
Bro, you come find me at Michelle Tater. Just warning y'all, I'm going to be super obnoxious this week because as of today, about 30 minutes before this podcast started, the Texas Longhorns are #1, baby. So I'm very obnoxious on Twitter right now about my football. But come over, talk to me at Michelle Tater, and we'll talk wrestling, we'll talk football, we can talk ghosts, we can talk anything. I just like to talk to you people. So yeah, tell me about next week's episode because I'm pretty stoked about it.
Yeah, so next week's episode, we go back to the NWA. Now we're entering a new year. Okay. Unlike previous years where each company only had like one, maybe two pay-per-views a year, that's all going to change in 1988. Each company is going to be putting on a few more shows. Now, remember how we said that the show that we covered today was intentionally scheduled on the same night as NWA Starrcade? Well, next week's show is NWA's Bunkhouse Stampede, which took place on the same night as the first ever WWF Royal Rumble. So the war continues between the two companies. Going to be good.
It's going to be good, Justin. I just wonder who will come out on top.
I'll let you know.